I really want to say that I'm really not a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus. Jesus' perspective was that he needed to try to help the religion that he grew up with. It was so restricted under the law to say, you folks don't get it. You're not seeing my understanding of what God is. And I just love that perspective. And the bottom line is that we're to love each other. And we're not kept to a limited, it's only us Christians.
It's as if the religions of the world happen inside of God. The universe happens inside of God. We exist inside of God. And it's all just one thing and one energy. There's no separation. It's just this one thing. And that's kind of what the timeless is. And that wall over there, there's a picture of the Grateful Dead playing. And so they've had a huge impact on my life. And Bob Weir is a rhythm guitar player, singer. A couple weeks ago, Bob Weir died. And it's kind of significant because the name of this podcast is called Chasing the Timeless. And that phrase I got from hearing an interview somebody had with Bob Weir recently, where he said, everything he does in his music, in his life, he's looking for the timeless. And I really kind of like that. This concept of what is the timeless and what does that mean? So that's what this kind of essence of this podcast starts with.
Yeah, there's more to be said about that concept. I would need to hear from you.
Yeah. But I thought to start, I wanted to play a song by Bob Weir that he put out on his own. And we're going to see if we can get this to play through here. At this point in the show, Don and I listened to some music by Bob Weir, and I thought you guys were going to be able to listen to it with us, but for some technical reasons, I needed to work some stuff out. But we talk about the lyrics a little bit in this show, but these are my favorite lyrics of the song right here.
And I never saw the ocean till I was close to your age now.
Anyway, the song is called Only River by Bob Weir on the album Blue Mountain. You should go listen to it. And thank you so much, Bob. I love you. The lyrics of the Grateful Dead and his songs can get really deep and metaphysical and that Zen, where you have to look at it and it doesn't make sense unless you think about it from Eastern religion, philosophy. And
what hit me, this is just the first impression. You're never going to be perfect. You're not going to resolve everything. And there's a word of grace in there. You're on your journey. We're not going to be perfect in that journey. We're never going to resolve everything. I mean, but that comes out of my own journey. I'm not saying that's what the song meant for Bob, yeah.
There's so many different meanings different people can put to the lyrics at a Grateful Dead concert.
Yeah, and it should be that way.
And you might ask the person that wrote the lyrics, well, what did this mean? And they're never going to say it because they don't want to take away somebody else's meaning from it.
And it would be wrong for someone to say, I know the interpretation of that. Mm-hmm. What they really don't know is themselves. I think a lot of wisdom in our world, it does come out of our own journeys, our way of looking at ourselves as we look at life. And so I can see a lot of interpretations being to that.
And it takes one thing, and I might think about it for myself, is that there is no right. There's no wrong. And I think so much of our challenges that we feel going through life, the hardships, are because we have an image of what we want and what is right, what's wrong. And we live in the past, dwelling on everything that's happened in the past. We're trying to set ourselves up for the future. One thing is true about life is it's going to throw you curveballs all over the place.
Absolutely.
So you're never going to be able to create right for yourself and hold on to it. It's just a futile effort. And I feel that there's this book I'm reading right now where it mentions if you ever have a problem in your life, the first thing to do is to stop thinking about the problem and instead turn your attention to God. And because our problems are what we feel in our emotions, and they're often driven by fear. And because we feel alone and vulnerable, and we see the life putting things in front of us, and we don't know how we're going to handle it, and so there's fear. I think for almost all problems and all the ways we try to be something we're not, we're afraid of how people are going to judge us. But once you start realizing that you're connected to the entire universe, connected to this river in the song, connected to other people, and to a greater drive and purpose, then you're not alone anymore. You're supported, and that can add clarity to how you go forward.
So from my faith tradition in the Christian faith, which, and you have helped me expand my way of thinking of the divine or whatever. And I really have grown from just being with you. I really thank you for that. And I really want to say that I'm really not a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus. But Jesus' perspective was that he needed to try to help the religion that he grew up with. It was so restricted under the law to say, you folks don't get it. You're not seeing my understanding of what God is. And I just love that perspective. And the bottom line, as I read the story of Jesus, is that we're to love each other. And we're not kept to a limited, it's only us Christians. I just think that's totally wrong. But as you understand the universe, and when you talk about God, I'm thinking your perspective, it is not just the Judeo-Christian perspective, but a much wider perspective.
It's directly personal. There's a direct connection that it's as if the religions of the world happen inside of God. The universe happens inside of God. We exist inside of God. And it's all just one thing and one energy. And science and our understanding of the universe happens within there. Consciousness happens within that. And there's no separation. It's just this one thing. And that's kind of what the timeless is. What is true about our lives that were true from the very beginning of human beings, or even beginning of the universe, and that will always be true forever? Something that can't change. Like, what doesn't change? Religions change. They were, a lot of the major religions, we can date back and when they started to occur. But what connections did people have to the universe and to their true origin of their self, even before all of that? And I think it's just as true whenever. So that's kind of where my religious lookings are from. And I think there's a lot of knowledge that has helped me learn and given me perspectives. And there's lots of great messages in the Bible and many other religions and look at those and take what you need, because those are human beings just like us that had very similar problems and insights and relationships, and that's their wisdom. And we can always learn.
So you're honoring within each person, if I'm understanding, within each person, that you should not be putting your philosophy on them, but honoring them where they are and how they understand.
Yeah, we have no idea what somebody else thinks and how their relationship with God is. I mean, does it have to be exactly the same as mine? That's why there's so many people, because there's so many different expressions of God through all these different people, but yet it's all the same underlying energy, the same field of love that just sits there for all of us. We're all drawing from the same energy source, and things that we do, I think, have impacts not just through transactions of things happening, but just our energy, the way we take one energy here and share it with somebody else.
I grew up with a tradition that said, actually, I did not grow up with a tradition that said, us Southern Baptists are the best and, forget all the rest. My church and the clergy that I was raised with, they were just very welcoming of all people. But my experience in that denomination over years, it's gotten really narrow. And the purpose was we needed to win all people to Christ, or they would go to hell. Never bought that. And I mean, I'm so far away from that now. I would never try to talk to someone and try to hook them into the Christian faith perspective. I like how you're describing that as the energy, and we're all within the larger sphere of God, and there's nothing outside of that. There's God, and then so.
Yeah, this has some interesting implications when you talk about consciousness and the brain and the universe and quantum mechanics and the way things work.
Mm-hmm.
And I often hear scientists trying to understand these answers through a physical world where I'm here, you're there. The way we experience the world is the most natural way to perceive it. So they may be open to saying, well, we don't know how things really work, but let's go with the most obvious things. And I don't think it's obvious that there is anything other than God. I understand that through most of my life, I didn't feel this way. And I think that's the perspective that a lot of, or I'm guessing most humans see the world as, and that's why there's so many egos and problems involved in stuff. But as I've been in tune to finding my own comfort by tapping into this energy, I get this unmistakable sense that there is no beginning, there's no end, there's no space, there's no distance. And all the stuff that we're seeing around us is just kind of a gift to experience, to learn from, to grow from, to gain some really interesting. I mean, just imagine coming from a place of perfection. And that's, I assume, everybody's definition most people's definition of God is just this perfect, peaceful love, knows everything, created everything, or whether even created, and we're just part of that. But yet we're born into this world separated from that truth. And we have
Separated.
we're born into this. It's almost like a video game we're born into, a computer virtual world that we're born into. And the magic of the way we interact with the world is that it seems so absolute truth. Like, people used to think the world is flat. It seems so obvious. Like, saying anything that the earth isn't the center of the universe, goes against God. But the more we learn, the more we realize that what we assume to be true isn't true. And even on the spiritual level, let me back up here a second. The way we see ourselves different from the world and helps us to build houses, to farm, to deal with things and bring challenges and problems before us that we have to learn to go through life. With that myth of the way the world is, helps create our psyche and our soul and our learning and our understanding, and makes life difficult, but yet also beautiful at the same time. This paradigm, and it's that people grapple with. The more I'm connecting with deeper spiritual stuff, the more I realize, all this stuff it really doesn't matter. I don't even know if it's real. I'm going to live as if it is, because you experience discomfort otherwise. But the source of my understanding of truth that takes away my fear in this world is direct connection that me, you, God, everything else are just one beautiful ball of love and can support me through anything. And the more I do that, the more I see evidence of that around me. Like, there's so much, like, little kernels of, like, when your mom might leave a note on your lunch box to say, have a good day, or somebody leaves a little candy for you that you weren't expecting. They pop up all over the world. There's all around your life. There's guidance on how to get through what you're doing when you're connected to that. If you're just dealing with the world as objects that we're all separate from, that kind of blocks our connection to God. And that's where I see that phrase about when you have a problem, first thing to do is just set the problem aside and just go inward. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay.
Can you give an example of where, when you've turned the problem over to God, and where you would see these messages?
All right, I'm probably going to cry here too.
That's the good part.
Yeah.
So welcome back.
So my dad is 90. He had a heart attack just before Thanksgiving a couple of months ago, and now is in hospice. It just kind of fell in my lap, and that there's really only one way we can go forward, and that's if I spend the night over there. And he has dementia, and somebody needs to be there throughout the night to make sure sheets stay on him, if he has to go to the bathroom, if something happens, and that's kind of been my role. And also just to take the burden off my mom so she can get sleep and spend time with him during the day. And there's other aides that come there during the day. And at the beginning, we were told that could be a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. But now there's signs of improvement, but still no signs that he's going to ever be walking around on his own or being able to get up and use the bathroom on his own. We have a machine that lifts him up and sets him down. So there's a burden. It impacts what I can do, my schedule, my time. But then looking in, I kind of from the beginning, I thought to myself, okay, I feel like things happen for us. Nothing ever happens to us or against us. And so this was a moment for me to think, what can God teach me through this? What is he trying to? Because everything has things. One is that having this grief early made me realize that grief is really just a sign of love. It's the more you grieve is really just a ratio of how much you love the person.
Absolutely.
So that makes me aware of that's part of my life. It's been part of my life, but it hasn't been in the forefront of my mind as much. You know, there's little transactions here or there. Have dinner with my parents once in a while, but I don't really internalize the love as much. And sometimes it's not until we have the sadness with it that love comes up. And I've been spending a lot more time with him. And you know, when I put him to bed at night, I might play some soothing music. I usually, kiss him on his forehead and help him to relax and close his eyes. And this gratitude from him is amazing. Just thanking me for taking care of him, and it's almost like it's okay now to really verbally share our love. And I think a lot of people have a hard time doing that. So these are all kind of seen as lessons that are coming, and there's other challenges that are rising. And my oldest son Fletcher, he's was home for Christmas, and the nephews were around as well. My nephews to help be with my dad certain nights, and they gained something from that. It enriched their lives. There's some stresses, and it's this has sort of led my older son to start creating a gratitude journal in the morning. And then when he said, it's like, wow, my life has really changed since I've started doing that just in a few days, that I decided, well, I'm going to start doing this too. And the same book I told you about with the problems and not thinking about the problem. Just last night I was reading a chapter about gratitude and the importance of gratitude journals, and how focusing our brain power on what's good in life, it helps the serotonin and all the other chemicals and connections work better. It builds stronger neural pathways that emphasize that life is okay. And I think, going back to the title of Chasing the Timeless, so much of what we see on our phones and the media is negative. And I feel like people are reinforcing these neural pathways of anger, vengeance, pain, and forgetting that you should probably put more of your thoughts on love and gratitude. I know some people are going to look at that and think, yeah, but the world is a really bad place, so I don't want to discount it and not think about it. Yeah, that stuff's there, but it's also a beautiful place too. And I think that's why we have this experience as being human, is so that we can see that. And if enough bad things get put in front of us and we can somehow push our way through those and still find love, then that just brings us closer to God. And the way to do that is to put yourself closer to God. And then you see that, in the proportion of everything, all these other things are just challenges for me to find a way to create a stronger relationship with God.
So a question about that. What's our time here?
Whatever.
Okay. So I've buried a lot of people in my time as a pastor. And some of those funerals the deaths were untimely, someone young having cancer or someone being in an auto accident at age 12. And so when people say, and they're trying to be comforting, I've heard people say things like, well, God called your child home because God needed another 12-year-old angel. Well, that makes me want to say all kind of vile words. And I just think, one, you're trying to comfort me. If John died, and someone said, well, God just needed a 31-year-old angel, and now he has one, I'd say, well, again, I would want to say 4-letter words. I'm not going to say it right now, but and so my understanding is that if John were to die, I would just wholeheartedly believe God is crying with me, and that I surely can't explain. I mean, life happens in this world, and your thoughts about what is time, and what are my losses? I feel this, but I can feel that we're all a part of the universe. I mean, I'm wanting to know more about that. And in my reading of the Hebrew scriptures, which used to be called the Old Testament, I'm in First Chronicles now. Well, it's talking about all the different kings that come along, and this king, is now ordained by God, but this king doesn't follow the law, and now God is punishing this king. But then this king will say, look, I'm really sorry, I repent. Well, God then says, well, it's okay then, I'm going to gift you some more. And it's back and forth, as I understand. And even as a clergyman, I am limited. I guess I'm sounding judgmental, and I own that, but I'm not pleased with it. So I just don't understand everything about how the Hebrew scriptures are interpreted by some folks. But so to believe, I'm comforted knowing I believe God is with me on my journey, and he's with all of us on our journeys, and that I'm not alone in this. And I think that is one of the lessons Jesus was saying, look, God is love. And you following the law is not to understand God. So I hope you followed me.
Yeah.
But,
I think when people talk about a wrathful God that punishes us, that's just us punishing ourselves.
absolutely. And from the therapist that I am, and what I know about psychology and psychotherapy, that people bring their own self-hatred. And I work with a lot of people that will say, but I know God doesn't love me because of all that I've done. And I know I can't dissuade them from that, although I occasionally try to. But that is their own self-hate. And it's brutal. And I just feel grieved seeing it.
I think about that raising my kids as well, of situations where I know it's a tough situation, but if I step in, they're not going to learn anything.
That's true.
And obviously I'm not going to let them get hurt, or try to give them the tools that they need to get through it and kind of reassure them that they can get through it. But sometimes it's kind of rooting for them, know that they're going to come out on the other end better, and the fact that they did it themselves will give them the confidence that they need to be able to handle a diversity of situations in the future. And I think they know that we aren't abandoning abandoning them in situations. We're just go,
Yeah.
and you'll do this. You got this. You got this. And so if clearly, I think there is a relationship that exists between God and us, just by the fact that I sense love towards me and I reciprocate love. That's a definition of a relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I agree with you. When bad things happen, it's not a punishment, but just, hey, this is life. And sometimes there's a lot of valleys of ups and downs. And I think the highest, I don't want to say the highest, but people that are, I don't know if there's reincarnation, but people that are ready in this life to say, you know what, I'm done living it the other way. I want to live it that way, and with God, and be happy and supportive. And you can't make somebody do that. It's a discovery. It's not a fact or knowledge that you can teach somebody, but you kind of encourage somebody. And I think part of our discussion is just to let people know, like, try it. Just not saying anything's true for them or whatever. Just, there's a lot of gratitude, and life gets easier the more we hand over a lot of these problems and just trust with it. And I've never been disappointed. I've never felt like I would have had this nice fancy boat and all this stuff if I just would have followed my competitive economic ways of putting these people down and doing this for myself. The riches just come from so many different places, and they keep increasing the more you make that a priority of your life. Not to have all these things, but to have that relationship. Sometimes it can seem like I've been down low for a long time. And maybe that's just what the person needs. Maybe there's a specific lesson that can only come from things that we see as being just devastatingly horrible. But I don't think there's I don't feel like God doesn't care or sees these things as bad. It's like we're the ones that are judging our situation. Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack in what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And is there some way to make it, to simplify it, like we're, so on my personal journey, I'm 72, and if you ask me what's it like to be 72, I would have to say, I don't know. I've never been 72 before. This is all new for me. But with my health issues, I want to embrace them. I don't want to, curse about, why can't an 85-year-old, why can't I be like this 85-year-old? He didn't have any problems, and he's playing golf and hitting them really long and straight, and now I can't even stand up too long. I can hit it and go. I have to sit down in the golf cart. Well, I don't want to. So this is my journey, and I want to embrace it because I feel like I want my children to know, it's life, and that Dad or my grandkids, I'm grandpappy to them, for them to say, well, my dad, he taught me how to live and how to die. And he said, with courage and acceptance. And I meant, and I could tell a long story here. But Dad was an alcoholic, really a bad alcoholic. But the last 25 years of his life, he quit all that. And he finished his life strong. And that's just been a great, that's been a blessing to me and my brother. Um, so I want to live life embracing it, and I do believe God is love. Um, I surely can't explain, nor nor do I even feel like I need to, about how to explain the divine. But my understanding of the divine is much larger now than it ever has been, and I expect it'll keep expanding and growing.
Well, that's beautiful. It's I had this image of an ocean, and you drop a big rock into it, and all these little splashes of water come up. Are those drops of water still ocean? Are they separated from it? What about when they land back down? Does that water not there anymore? And the analogy being that we're these droplets of water having this experience up in the air, this perception of being somehow separate from the ocean, but yet, when we die, when the water lands back in the ocean, it's not like they're gone. They're just reconnected in a different way.
I'd have to ask a scientist about this. Closest one to me is my son, but you know, our body, when it's cremated, or you stick it in a box, put it in the ground, energy is going to stay. It's going to manifest itself as energy, but in different forms. But I'm stepping way out on territory that I didn't train in, but
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted this podcast to be for is for people that are caught up in how their ego, how they're supposed to live. Maybe they know they know they're different than everybody else. They want to live the life different, but they still harbor a feeling of a fear of being judged for how they want to live the life, for being themselves. They want to fit in, and I want to talk to people who are really living their authentic life and stepping away from old habits that a lot of us go through, and let people know they're not alone, and just be yourself. And I feel like the best way to do that is to just drop all the preconceived notions we have about who we are, what we're supposed to do, judging our life, and just letting go, just trusting the universe, just trusting it, saying, you know what, I'll go wherever you want me to go, and I'll be whoever I need to be, and you just kind of, then there's no fear of trying to live kind of a false truth or somebody else's truth. It's just ours, and that's really refreshing, because that is the true self that I think God put on this earth. There's something unique about each of our relationships with God and the universe.
yeah.
And
So someone
discover that.
Someone that would be listening to this podcast, and I hope they will, folks that are struggling with addictions, folks that are struggling with their private self and their habits. It's so complex and so problematic, particularly when they have a really judgmental, and there's many different theories about how to talk about our personalities, but the parts of them that are judgmental, that say, you promised you wouldn't do this again. Look, you did it again. You did it again. You did it again. You know, I'm worthless, I'm worthless, I'm worthless. A lot needs to be said about what does it mean to be your true self?
Well, the one that's saying you're worthless is a personality that our mind created. It's created based on the lies. And we believe ourselves to be the one who says we're worthless.
And unpacking that is complicated. Well, I mean, we're acculturated to think certain ways. I was acculturated by my mom and my dad, and then their religious backgrounds and heritage, and you know, all that I was trained. I've had to unlearn a lot of that. Therapy's been real helpful for that. Or some people will find their release in a higher power, and like Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, their step program, and same bad as you. I couldn't.
This is interesting because I have my phone on silence as well. So, because that was my computer notifying me that I had a phone message. My phone was quiet, but it's paired with my computer. So
it found a way to
all these little things for our first podcast to learn that.
We'll learn. So unpacking that, what it means to be the true self. A lot of thoughts about it. But someone's true self might be that they really make a commitment to a faith and denomination that provides a lot of structure, strict structure, that they find their salvation in following that. And I would not want to say, well, you're wrong. Actually, you know, there's a better way to think about God. Well, I wouldn't want to be saying...
I can move that just a little bit closer and just be mindful of your hands.
Okay, I've been gesticulating here, and I've been knocking it away. But I would not want to dissuade them from that. I might have, you know, growing into my 70s, and I like who I am. As a clergyman, in my work as a therapist, I let folks that come to see me, I say, you know, Sunday school words won't help us in this office. You're welcome to use any words that you need to say. I know all those bad words and use it myself. And I'm wanting to say to them, it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to talk about what your feelings are. And I welcome you being your true self. Well, they might not know what true self means. And maybe I can help them to do that. What it means to be accepting of your humanity, your foibles, your downfalls, your mistakes, that you'll make them over and over. But get up and try again. Just keep on with your life. And so.
Hearing that song in the beginning where it says, I hadn't seen the ocean since I was your age now. And Bob Weir, you know, in his mid-70s when he wrote that song, it's a journey. And I think who we are at different stages changes. So I think trying to say, this is my true self, or this is my true self, I would caution against trying to define it or to say this is who I am, because then you start attaching to that. And instead just go with the feeling that is supportive, with love, and not driven by wanting things and judgments. And we don't even have to know our true self, just be living in that that way.
You know, and I'm aware we have we have a lot of common ways of thinking. I've enjoyed being in your presence. I hope I've had maybe just a teeny influence on you.
Quite a bit.
So when I think about, from my perspective as a therapist and as a clergyman, when I think of true self, I would not say to the person, okay, Andrew, now I'm going to help you be your true self. I would not say that, because then they wouldn't know. But to sit with them and to listen to them and to hear their emotions, their struggles, and to be with them right where they are on that journey. Maybe they reach a point where they can be gracious towards themselves and accept their journey, that they're not alone in this, that they're not perfect, and they never need to be.
Just by having that energy with you means that as you're walking down the street, as you're checking out at the cash register someplace, you have an impact on somebody. And like, there's somebody that's still thinking about how we're friendly to each other in the world. And those are the types of things that are important, that make you really feel that you're doing stuff right, is when you can really live with it.
Wow.
This is a good time to
kind of wrap it up.
Yeah. And maybe we can do this again sometime.
Sure, we absolutely can. I'm in for that.
If you enjoyed this episode and you know somebody that might be inspired by it, share it with them. To learn more about the show, go to chasingthetimeless.com.